friends. Welcome to the Creative Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Caldwell, and I'm so happy you're here. Each episode, I take some time to chat with fellow artists about life, faith, and the impact of the arts.
I definitely spent a lot of time feeling like I need to know right now, what I'm going to do forever.
Yeah.
At the beginning of college, it was like, okay, what am I going to do for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
And then it was like, by the end of college, it's like, okay, now I really need to know.
Right, exactly.
And a year out, it's like, okay, I really need to know. And just, I personally, I think a lot of people that are younger now, because they see so many people who are successful in one area, feel like they need to figure it out like tomorrow. Like they need to be at a certain level and know exactly what they're doing ASAP.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's so much time.
Right.
And not everything that you've learned in some other field, it's not a waste just because it's not what you're doing now.
Thank you so much for joining me for episode 37 of the podcast. If you haven't already, today is the perfect day to subscribe to the show. You can just click subscribe on whatever app you happen to be listening on. Today, I'm joined by my friend Logan Keller. Logan and I have gotten to know each other through Sugarland Family Church, where he's currently working overseeing the video team, social media team, and graphics team. He also directs the live stream, mixes audio for the live stream, and works on overall production. Basically, he wears all sorts of hats, and we talk about that on the show today. Throughout our conversation, Logan and I chat about the value of enjoying creative pursuits as hobbies, and that life really is a journey of discovery. Logan shares about some of the pressure that he put on himself, feeling like he needed to have everything figured out and knowing that one thing that he wanted to do for the rest of his life. I love his perspective on trying new things and not letting that pressure hold us back. Logan graduated from the University of Texas at Austin with his bachelor's in English literature and a minor in communications. We talk about Logan's passion for music, specifically guitar and singing, and his experiences with leading worship and being in ministry over the years. Logan opens up about some of his experiences growing up as a pastor's kid and how his faith has also impacted his view of creative work. He shares about his love of photography and film and how the obstacles we face end up sometimes helping us grow the most. Enjoy my conversation with Logan Keller.
Hey, Rachel.
Hey, so everyone listening, this is Logan Keller, and super excited to have you on the show today.
Yeah, excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So Logan and I know each other through church at Sugarland Family Church, and you've been there from the very beginning.
That's right.
That's awesome.
That is right. Day one.
Yes. So Logan, just for those that are listening, Logan's parents are the pastors at Sugarland Family Church. And so how old were you when SLC first got planted?
Yeah, I think I was 6 years old.
Okay.
So a little over 20 years ago.
Wow. So you probably don't even really remember much life before.
Yeah, I remember bits and pieces. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Those early days. But
for sure. Well, I'm super excited to get to hear more about your story and just get to hang out today on the podcast. So
yeah, it's an honor to be here.
Thanks. Well, do you want to just start off sharing a little bit about yourself and kind of like elevator pitch version of who you are?
Oh, man.
I know it's kind of a tough one.
Well, currently right now, I actually work at Sugarland Family Church. I work as, it's a smaller team. And so we all kind of wear a bunch of different hats. So I don't know that I have a title, but the thing that I spend the most time doing is working on our broadcast services, our live stream.
Right.
Both in the video and the audio for that, and training team members on cameras and also just shooting video projects and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then on the side, doing some graphics and, filler, anything that needs to be done.
Right. Definitely. It's one of those situations for sure where you're like, okay, got to just pitch in wherever is needed. And and you guys have been doing an awesome job, especially, and maybe we can talk more about this, but through the pandemic and pivoting and kind of figuring out how to make it work. So
for sure.
Super cool. And it's true. Y'all do a lot of really cool projects with video and film and kind of little things to insert in service, or I don't know if things are pre-recorded sometimes probably, or, even live stream. So That's fun. And I can't wait to hear more about it.
It's definitely been fun getting more into that and seeing how we can push ourselves a little further and try new things.
Yeah, that's so cool. So I would love to hear what got you interested in the arts in the first place. So I actually know from when we first met you that you are a musician and sing super well, play guitar, that kind of stuff, which is really fun. That's sweet. Yeah, I don't know if you start with music or whatever you first piqued your interest when you were growing up.
Yeah, so I guess music was probably my first foray into any sort of creative venture for myself. And that I guess I started taking piano lessons really young, which I was not the best student of at the time. But eventually when I got into, like 6th, 7th grade, I joined band in school playing the French horn. And that was kind of like my launch pad for getting into music. And I did that through most of high school, doing classical music that way. And that was really fun. But around 13 or 14, I picked up the guitar and actually took some lessons from some people who were at our church.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, just kind of like weaseled my way onto the worship team as an acoustic guitar player at like 14.
Yes.
And like stuck with that all through high school, eventually starting to lead worship and sing, which I was super nervous to be doing.
Yeah, it's pretty intimidating, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's one thing to like be in the background playing guitar.
Right.
And another thing to be like, you feel like all eyes are on you. And that's not really the point of what's going on, but I don't know, it's very intimidating.
Yeah, it still has that feeling for sure. And there are people watching you. I mean, hopefully they're like in a moment of worship, but you're still leading them. So
well, especially when you're in high school and it's like you're at youth group and it's all of your peers and that kind of flow. Like you're
already kind of insecure
kind of in your head and things like that. So, but I tried my best to push through that and kind of stayed with that up until now. Really, I mean, I haven't led worship in a while now just because of the role that I'm in, being kind of required to be behind the scenes on Sunday mornings and during services, but I still am involved in music kind of on a behind the scenes level, which is still fun.
That's awesome. Yeah. Do you get to do like some of the special music stuff behind the scenes, or what does that look like for you?
Yeah. I mean, I've done a couple of, when we've done pre-recorded things, I've been able to be part, like when we did our Christmas services this past year.
Yeah.
That was fun to get to do. I felt a little rusty, but
that was super cool. That was really fun. It was like, for those that are listening, it was a cool, like sort of fireside Christmas service at Pastor Nate and Dina's house, and just kind of getting to have that family vibe was super fun. And I really enjoyed that a lot this year.
Oh,
that was
cool.
Really cool.
Yeah, that was really fun to work on. It was fun to get back in it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Was it Mother's Day that y'all did kind of a special music as well, or something? The one at the porch? I'm trying to remember what that was.
Yeah. We did do a kind of a music video style shoot. Michael, Brianna, who are our worship pastors, and I did a special song for Mother's Day. It was a cover of a Joy Williams song called Front Porch, and we pre-recorded that and then recorded a video along with it. That was a fun project to work on.
Yeah.
So I definitely get to do some stuff like that, which is cool.
That is really cool. And how often do you find yourself just like hanging out, playing guitar, singing, that kind of stuff, just on your own?
Yeah, I still play guitar quite a bit, just in my free time, as sort of like a relaxation tool.
Yeah.
It's just very, I don't know, it eases the mind a little bit.
Kind of therapeutic almost. Or?
Yeah, kind of therapeutic.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the extent right now that I've been playing, at least consistently.
Makes sense.
It's still cool. You know, it doesn't have to be on a professional level or like,
right.
You know, doing it, live performance or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of value in just, like you said, kind of the benefit of just playing and kind of hanging out. And that's one of my favorite things is kind of the more casual, like when you're just with family or like, I know in college for me, I had some friends that were into, singing or playing guitar or piano. We would just kind of all gather together and hang out, in the residence hall or one of the student buildings or whatever, and just get to chill, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah,
so
it is fun. I think that probably comes across as obvious to most people that, of course, it's a hobby,
Right.
that you're playing. I think maybe for me, anything that I was into, it was like, I'm going to just like push it to the, like I want to do it at like a professional level, or like that's where I want to get to.
Yeah.
And so I think it's sort of been good for me to even just enjoy those things as hobbies, those creative pursuits as hobbies. Like you don't have to do it at a professional level or be doing it for a job or anything like that to gain enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, that's some good wisdom for sure. Yeah. I think it's easy to get kind of, especially these days, because we're seeing like on social media and just all around us kind of the comparison of like the people that are doing all the things. It feels like, I mean, not everyone is doing everything, but because you're seeing so many people at the same time, it's like, oh, I should be, pro level with all these things. And
yeah, I get so many ads on Facebook or Instagram that's like how to monetize your hobby.
Really?
Like fill in the blanks, like, how to make X amount of dollars a month doing music production or things like that.
That's so interesting. They know way too much about our lives, I feel like.
I know. They know the buttons to push.
Yes, for sure. And I've definitely had a couple times where I've just said something out loud and then later I'm like scrolling on my phone and there's an ad for it. I'm like,
yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on, but I don't know how they do it or what, but it is a little spooky.
A little bit, for sure.
It's a little suspicious.
For sure.
I'm not a fan.
Me either. But I mean, I do like, I guess, having somewhat of the personalization, but at the same time, it's just very, very weird. Yeah. So I'm going to go back just a little bit.
Yeah.
So when you were in band in middle school and high school, did you do marching band?
I did do marching band. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I forgot you were in marching band as well, right?
Yeah.
Or not marching band. You were in dance though.
Exactly. So I was part of the dance team, but we marched with the band. Right. So we got that experience, which was super
we had that
cool.
as well. Ours were the Phillies.
Okay.
I'm sure every school has, what their dance team is called, but.
So y'all had the Phillies. We were the Angels.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a pretty unique experience. I feel like being part of marching band, because you're like probably on the biggest team of your life, out there on the field, and just that many people coming together to make something like that happen was super cool. And for me as a dancer, to get to dance to live music was a really incredible experience in high school.
I bet.
So,
and it's sort of amazing looking back now, a handful of years out of high school, like the level of coordination and dedication of high school students.
Yeah, for real.
To do that. Like, I can't believe that I was getting up at like 5:30 in the morning to go to marching band practice.
Wow. So you had before school practice?
Yeah, it was before school.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah. Crazy.
That's impressive.
But it was such a fun experience.
Mm-hmm.
I think I enjoyed it more for the communal aspect of it than even what we were actually doing. It was sort of being a part of that big of a group, and like we're all sort of dreading being up that early together, but making the most of it, and it was fun.
Yes, there's sort of
the
like
football games were fun.
That culture and environment at the games is super fun, and kind of bonding through. I think I've said this on the show before, but like bonding through suffering.
Yeah,
it's like this really, community. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Did y'all compete as well?
I think we did. Yeah, I vaguely remember going to some competitions.
Nice.
Yeah, I forget what the acronyms or whatever they were, whatever name they had for them. But there was always like a big state one that we did like once a year.
Cool. Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of time and investment, but I think it teaches us so much. And like you said, kind of what high schoolers are capable of is pretty incredible when they put their mind to it. So
I remember, actually, it makes me think, I remember when I left high school band, it was going into my junior year of high school. And I remember sitting down with the band director and telling him that I was going to be quitting because I wanted to focus more on other hobbies and things, or just like wanted more time for homework. I'm sure I said homework when it wasn't really what I was going to be focusing on.
I know what you mean, though.
Yeah. But I was getting more and more involved at church and things. And I remember him telling me, he said something along the lines, and I'm going to botch this, but something along the lines of like, the more filled in your schedule is, it's amazing how much more you get done.
Yeah.
Which is like, on the surface, that's like, well, duh. But it turned out to be so true in that I had so much more free time, and I didn't really make use of it anymore. I didn't really get any more done by uncommitting to something.
Gotcha.
Which has kind of taught me a little bit. I've learned from that over the years a little bit, that like you think that your plate is full, but taking something off of it doesn't necessarily motivate you to add the other things that you wanted to do.
Yes.
You probably had the time to do it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's so true. It's just, what are we prioritizing? Or
it's about priorities.
I remember hearing, and maybe I can look it up and figure out who said this so I can give them credit, but it was like, it's not about time management as much as it is about energy management. And I found that to be really true.
Yeah.
A lot of it is, do you have the energy to, and like you said, motivation to get it done? But anyway, but that's super cool.
That's so true. Yeah, band was a great experience.
Yeah, definitely a good experience. Learning.
Definitely regret leaving early.
Yeah. Aw, well, maybe I can take a little snippet of today's episode and share it with some of my students when they want to quit.
Yeah. Anytime they're like, I need to work on my homework more.
Right.
Oh no.
But there is something to be said about, mental health, and if it is just way too much going on. But some of it is just like the noise of the world. And like, I think especially my students nowadays, they're like just bombarded with all this unnecessary noise in their lives. And it's anyway, so. Yeah. Kind of a side note there.
And for sure, there's a case for your plate is actually that full.
Right.
I think he knew me enough to know that I was just sort of like trying to take the easy way out.
Gotcha. Yep.
Yeah.
Makes sense. You mentioned a little bit going into college. So you said kind of right before college was when you started really like diving into more singing and stuff like that, leading worship. So what was your college journey like?
Man, college was crazy.
Yeah.
College, I started off going in, I thought I was going to pursue music.
Okay.
And I wasn't a bad student at all in high school, but I wasn't like the most academic student or academically focused in terms of like, I wasn't, planning since 9th grade that I'm going to go to this college and I want to do this career and that sort of flow. And so I wasn't prepared with like a game plan.
Gotcha.
But I knew that I loved music. And so I applied to a couple of schools that had a music business program.
Oh, cool.
And ended up going to DBU, which is Dallas Baptist University, because they had a great music business program. And I didn't know what music business meant in terms of a career, but it sounded promising or sounded fun.
Right. Is it like production side of stuff or?
Yeah, I guess it was like you could kind of branch off into, you want to produce music? Do you want to work on, music licensing and, that side of things outside of being a entertainment lawyer, but like, the actual like nitty gritty of the music industry itself.
Gotcha.
And so there were a couple of different ways you could go with it. But I only spent a semester at Dallas Baptist University.
Okay, gotcha.
One, because I felt like I didn't actually want to pursue music business. And I thought music was more of just something I enjoyed.
Yeah.
They had a great program and I learned a ton and felt like I did well in it. But it wasn't really, like when you're in college, you find other interests. And
yeah, for sure.
I felt like I wanted to pursue something else.
Yeah, it's kind of like a discovery time in general.
Yeah.
You're kind of like trying out different things and figuring out what area, and then even after college, it can change a lot too. So it's kind of like it's a journey for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And at the same time, I didn't feel like it was the right school fit for me.
Yeah.
And so that combo kind of made me take a step back and reassess kind of what I wanted to do with college or where I wanted to go to college and get my education. And so I took a semester, or I didn't take a semester off, but I came back home and did a semester at community college.
Oh, yeah.
And applied to UT Austin, University of Texas. And you needed like a certain number of credit hours to transfer in. So I couldn't come right out of a single semester at DBU. So I got those extra credit hours and applied and ended up going to UT for their English program.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And so I got into English and I flip-flopped majors a couple of times there as well, but ended up graduating with my English literature degree at UT.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's super cool. So do you enjoy doing writing and stuff like that as well?
Yeah, I think that was my thought process going into it.
Yeah.
But I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do when I went into that program, but I knew that I liked writing and I enjoyed reading.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like it was a subject that I was good at of all of like the core subjects.
Yeah.
It was like the one that I felt like I understood the best and just connected with the best. And so I went for the English degree and stuck with it.
Yeah, that's good.
And it was a great program.
That's awesome.
I learned a ton.
Yeah. And I feel like just the sticking with it can be really good, and,
Yeah.
gaining those skills, and probably even it's kind of funny now looking back with the music business. Do you feel like there were some things that you learned there that now are like coming into play a little bit more with your role at SLFC?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it rounded out my actual music knowledge, because I took a lot of like core music classes. I didn't even get into the business program side of things.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
I didn't make it to like those upper division courses. So I took a lot of music theory and a course called oral skills, which is like hearing comprehension, basically, music wise. And yeah, it was like an eye opener musically for me, because a lot of what I had learned besides from high school band was not from a classical or like professional trained perspective, of like how music works and things. It was more like, I feel like that's how a lot of people end up learning guitar and things, is by ear, or they learn the songs they like.
Exactly. Kind of the practical, like, this is what I want to play. So
right,
I'm going to figure it out.
Just straight to the point.
Yes.
Stuff, which is great. But I learned so much that I don't necessarily use on a technical level now, but that just sticks with me, that I'm able to like pull out of the hat a little bit, for lack of a better term. It's definitely helped a ton.
Yeah. So where did you find yourself after college? What was kind of next steps for you?
Yeah. So after college, I moved back home for a little bit and ended up, of all things, getting my real estate license.
Nice. Yeah.
Here in Houston. Yeah. I don't know if you remember those days.
I do. I think that was kind of early on when we first met you. It was probably, I'm guessing you were pretty early out of college and, leading worship and kind of those days. So it was probably in that season.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was right around the time that y'all started coming. I remember coming to a small group that you guys were hosting.
Oh, yeah.
And I had like just gotten my license recently.
That's right. That's cool.
Yeah. I came out of college still not really knowing what I wanted to do professionally. And it was one of those things where I just had multiple interests. And that was, oddly enough, something that I was interested in, and just decided I would try it out. Yeah. My grandfather, after he retired, ended up getting his real estate license and doing that for a handful of years.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't realize that.
So it was like, yeah. And so he wasn't really following in his footsteps, but it was like, I remembered him doing that, and it seemed interesting. So I figured, why not?
Yeah. I saw it as kind of like a cool venture.
Yeah.
Like a possible thing.
Yeah. And I'd kind of gotten on this kick of, different forms of investing, and gotten to like real estate investing and things like that, or like learning about it. And so I think that angle of it interested me as well. And so it was like, well, if I don't even do it professionally, at least I'll have my license. And I did that for about a year and a half, maybe, before ultimately moving back to Austin for a little hiatus, and then finally settling back here at home, working at the church.
Yeah, that's awesome. And something that I've seen, at least in my life, is like that God's using everything.
Yeah.
That sometimes it can feel like, why did I walk through that? Or, well, that seems like kind of silly, or I don't know, whatever, like in my life at least. And then kind of looking back, and then a few years down the road being like, oh, well, that actually is really helping me right now. And whatever I'm doing. So
absolutely,
it's pretty cool to see how God ties all those pieces together.
Yeah. I think I definitely spent a lot of time feeling like I need to know right now, like what I'm going to do forever.
Yeah.
At the beginning of college, it was like, okay, what am I going to do for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
And then it was like, by the end of college, it's like, okay, now I really need to know.
Right. Exactly.
And a year out, it's like, okay, I really need to know. And just, I personally, I think a lot of people that are younger now, because they see so many people who are successful in one area, feel like they need to figure it out like tomorrow. Like they need to be at a certain level and know exactly what they're doing, ASAP.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's just so much time,
right?
And not everything that you've learned in some other field, like, in my case, music, the music business program, or just my pursuit of different musical ventures or real estate, like it's not a waste just because it's not what you're doing now.
Exactly. It's so easy to get in that mindset or the pressure of like having to have all the answers. And I kind of wish we did in some ways.
Yeah.
It feels like it would be easier. But then, God knows, like, it probably wouldn't actually be easier if we did know everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's probably better one step at a time. But
yeah,
I definitely get that feeling of like, kind of wish I would know where I'm going to be in 5-10 years from now, or, down the road.
I just think I stressed myself out so much in those college years of like, I need to pick my one thing, instead of just enjoying the many things that I liked and just seeing where that went.
Yeah. Where does it lead?
Yeah. And whether it leads to professional success or you just enjoy it as a hobby or whatever, or you never touch it again because you don't like it anymore. It's not like it was a waste.
Yeah. I think that can really speak to a lot of people listening right now, especially those who are, at that place in life in kind of college age or post-college a little bit and just trying to figure it out, just that it's okay. It's okay not to know.
Absolutely. And then I think you let yourself just explore stuff because it's fun.
Yeah.
I think I spent a lot of time not doing anything because I didn't know the one thing.
Ooh. So it's kind of paralyzing or something. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think anybody has across their whole life has the one thing.
Definitely. We're very multifaceted people for sure. Just wanted to take a moment and pause for my conversation with Logan to tell you guys about a super fun bonus episode that's available now. Some of you may have already heard it, but if you haven't, you should totally check out our very first bonus episode, which is a Patreon preview. So if you've heard about our Patreon community, basically it's a platform where you can support the show through monthly donations, and in return, you get extra exclusive content that is only for patrons. So this bonus episode is a really fun way to get a bit of a preview of some of that exclusive content that's available only to patrons. I'd invite you to check it out now. It's available on all the platforms that you listen to the podcast. It would mean so much if you'd consider becoming a patron of the show. You can check out more at creativeimpactpodcast.com/Patreon. That's creativeimpactpodcast.com/PATREON. Now let's get back to my conversation with Logan. I know you also kind of have an interest in photography and obviously film now with what you're doing at the church. Where did kind of that photography interest grow from?
Yeah, I think that early on it came kind of around the same time I started playing guitar.
Oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I had wanted a camera for Christmas one year. I couldn't even tell you why. Who knows? I'm sure I just thought it looked cool. At Best Buy or something. But I had gotten a camera and I just started playing around with it. And I think that was always, or at least through high school, was just sort of like my fun thing that I did. I had like no particular goal in mind with it. It was just something I enjoyed.
Right.
And that sort of blends into video stuff. There's some crossover there.
For sure. Yeah.
And so all of that's really helped me grow a little bit faster with what I am doing now. But yeah, photography has always been just something fun for me.
That's really cool. And then when did it sort of develop into getting more into film and like videography and that kind of side of things?
Yeah, I remember taking a class actually here at community college.
Oh, yeah.
For like an elective credit. It was the equivalent of like film appreciation.
Oh, nice.
I'm sure it was called something more astute than that. But it was like glorified film appreciation. I think I just had a really great professor here at WCJC, and he was really passionate about the films and broke them down in a not so I don't even know what to call it, but sort of pretentious way, I guess. Because I always felt that way, even in English, that was like, when you're breaking down the different motifs or the different symbolism, I'm like, but do you really know that's what the author intended,
Right. Sometimes it gets a little bit like Really? Yeah.
Yeah. But it made me just see movies in a different way, in the filmmaking process in a different way, and got to watch a bunch of movies that I would have never gone out and watched on my own, that are classics, that sort of, I could kind of see the Hollywood progression of cinema and things.
Yeah.
And I think the cinematography of movie making, which is sort of like the photography side, the way the camera moves and the lenses and all of that kind of stuff, kind of immediately stuck out to me.
Yeah.
Because of my interest in photography. And so I think that's kind of where I got into the filmmaking stuff, and started watching movies with a little bit more intentionality, not just watching like the blockbuster
right
movies every summer, which are great.
Right.
But yeah, I just kind of had an overall more appreciation for movies and film and video work and things like that.
For sure.
From there.
That's super cool. So do you want to give a little more detail on what your role is right now with utilizing film kind of in ministry, what that looks like?
Yeah, sure. So I guess number one was when I started working at the church, one of my first projects was like getting a live stream going at the church.
Right. Yeah, that was like a big deal. Like, we're going to get a live stream. Yeah.
Like anything at all. And it was kind of like Michael Cash, who has worked at the church for, I don't even know how long now.
Yeah, it's like over a decade or something.
Yeah. Had sort of like put the groundwork together, but he's up on stage on Sundays, and he wasn't able to run it on Sunday mornings. And so like I kind of picked up where he left off a little bit.
Cool.
And, we had like the single camera, no camera operator. It's just like, it's in the room.
Yes.
That's what you get.
It's just recording whatever happens.
Yeah. Whatever happens. And learning all of just like the bits and pieces of what makes a live stream happen, which is like so much more than I ever thought.
Yeah. I got a little tiny taste of it. So this past school year, when we had to end virtually, we did like a live stream spring show. And so I had to, download some sort of, I can't remember what it was now, but a program, that's kind of like the presenter program, and go through YouTube live stream and all that stuff. And that was a very small portion of what you do. But I was like, it's amazing just the amount of behind the scenes that goes into something like that. Yeah.
It's crazy. Like hats off to anyone who has to do that, who's like not familiar with it, because like I was so lucky to have the amount of time that I had really to learn at least what I did before we needed a live stream. Like that was all we had during COVID.
Right. That's so crazy.
The first part of COVID.
It just switched over completely.
If it was like, okay, we need to live stream this weekend because we're not having services and we've never done it before, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
And I still don't know. I mean, there's so much that I don't know, but I definitely had a leg up in that regard. Yeah. Just, it's like week by week, I learn more and more and figure out different pain points or problems, or
I'm sure it's like a lot of went wrong, troubleshooting and
a lot of troubleshooting, a lot of like hindsight troubleshooting. Like, why did that happen?
Yeah.
I think that also just piqued my interest more in video work, just because, I hadn't necessarily spent a lot of time actually filming video.
Yeah.
It was more like I had an interest in movies and in film, but not, I'm hands-on with the camera.
That's true.
So I spent like a ton of time learning, setting up, and like, okay, how do I make two cameras that are from a different brand and different years and different everything look somewhat similar, where it's like congruent to switch between them in a live stream. And
hadn't even thought about that. That's true.
Yeah, which I'm not sure we're even there, but
one thing that I do appreciate is I feel like, and maybe it's helpful because there was the time kind of leading into it, but it feels like anything that you guys pursue there at the church is very professionally done, or like there's a lot of intention behind it,
Yeah, so, thank you.
So that's really cool.
Yeah, we try our best to do everything with as much excellence as we can with what we have.
Right, with the resources you have at the time. I
think that's kind of like a goal that we all try to stand by and pursue. Any of that kind of stuff can get so expensive.
For sure.
Like it's sort of the sky's the limit of what you can do. So our goal from the beginning is like, well, how can we make it as good as we can with what we have, and, not try to push it so far, like beyond the limits of what we have,
Right.
but use what we have to make it as good as we can with what we have.
Ooh, that's
And it be
good.
as close to the in-person experience as it can be.
Yes.
It'll never be
right.
It'll never be that, but
yeah, you can feel that. You can feel that when you're watching. So
good.
Yeah.
I'm glad. It's definitely a goal of ours.
Yes.
I think in pursuing all of that, it led into, well, what kind of video projects can we do that aren't a part of the live stream?
Kind of pre-prepare.
Now that we have some of this, now that we have some of this equipment that we use live, why not use it for other things? Like, we record some church news segments that happen, in the middle of service, which have been fun. Just different videos that we'll play for special services, and that's been fun to push more and more and do more and more of.
For sure. And it's been fun seeing kind of on social media and stuff like the highlight moments from service or different things that y'all have been able to incorporate throughout the week, and Wednesday worships and stuff like that. So
yeah,
that's really cool.
At the beginning it was stressful, back in March when all this sort of COVID stuff started. It was initially stressful, but it, in a weird way, it was sort of exhilarating. In a, not that I wish it or I'm glad that it happened, but it sort of put everybody in a creative mindset. Like we had this new obstacle that we've never had before.
Yeah.
That pushed us to do things we've never done before, which was great for us because it, at least with the live stream, is the only thing I can speak to specifically. But the whole mindset of it was just like, we do this for people who can't be there or out of town, or at least that seemed to be how people were utilizing it.
Right.
And so it wasn't necessarily like something we were pushing to improve.
Yeah. It was kind of like a side thing. Like, we have this just in case,
Yeah. Yeah. And we were just getting acquainted with it, and it was fun. But to do it where it was like the only thing we were doing, I just think it was good for us creatively.
Yeah. I think obstacles and boundaries can be super helpful for creativity.
Yeah.
Which is weird, but definitely true. So. Yeah,
absolutely. I think the limitations can take you further, ironically, sometimes.
Exactly.
Because before it was like we didn't have a limitation, but we didn't have really a goal in mind either because of it.
Yeah.
Whereas we have this limitation of we can't meet in person. So how can we, bring church to people?
Right. That makes sense for sure. Just kind of taking a step back and looking at it from a broader perspective, what are some of maybe the challenges or highlights of working in ministry?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think on a broad perspective, the challenges of working in ministry, especially in the context of maybe our church in particular, is just that you wear so many hats. I think anybody that works in ministry, even if you're at the biggest church, you wear so many hats in whatever role you're in. And so it can be day to day something completely different. It's not a, go sit in your cubicle, right? Kind of like I do this one role kind of job.
You can't really check the check boxes very easily.
Right. Yeah. But at the same time, I like that aspect of it. It's just at moments it can be challenging.
For sure.
And I think ministry can be challenging because it's, you're dealing with people's lives, and you're ministering to other people who are, it's not always pretty.
Yeah.
Like where people are at. And, you kind of can wear that, a little bit. And it was sort of like a convoluted answer.
No, it's okay. But kind of feeling like the burden sometimes.
Yeah.
Kind of taking that on.
I think so. And I think maybe for me in particular, being, in the family of the pastor of the church, like maybe I just see more of what's happening. But yeah, I think you have sort of a ministry burden.
Right.
A little bit.
Right. That makes sense.
Which isn't, it's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
It's an amazing thing to be in ministry. But yeah, you definitely have those.
Which, speaking of, what was it like for you kind of just growing up as I would call a PK or a pastor's kid?
Yeah, PK. Yeah. Well, growing up, I didn't know any different.
That's true. But
I think that overall I had a really good growing up experience as a PK from hearing stories of other people or from other people who grew up as a PK, just because I feel like you can, like we said, ministry can kind of, it takes up, especially for my parents or any pastor, like it takes up a good chunk of your heart and mental process. And,
Yeah, I would imagine.
you're just responsible for so much. And I think for a lot of PKs, that just wears on them so hard. And they feel so restricted, maybe, in what they feel like they can and can't do.
Right.
But I just feel like my parents were super, I don't know, they felt just so normal as parents. Like I feel there was they were my parents, and then like there was a separation of my pastors. Not that they were different people in those different roles, but it was just like, they let me be me. I wasn't pressured to go into ministry.
That's really cool. There was kind of like that good boundaries, it sounds like. Maybe good boundaries there.
If there was any hard part of being a PK, I think it was something I put on myself more than my parents or anybody else put on me. Was I felt an expectation from myself to be a certain way because people knew I was a pastor's kid.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So it was like, well, how will they now view the church because of the way I'm acting, or like because of what I'm doing? And it's not even like I was going to do anything bad.
Right.
But at least I don't think so. But
we'll never know. No,
yeah, we'll never know. I'll never know. But
yeah, that pressure you put on yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't want this to reflect on my parents poorly, the church poorly. I felt like this, I feel like I put myself on a weird platform that I didn't need to put myself on, of like, I need to be this poster child of what church is and what our church is and my parents are. And like, instead of just realizing like anything I did wrong or bad was on me and not on my parents necessarily.
That makes sense though. Totally can see how that would be kind of an easy thing to pick up, or to kind of create that expectation of yourself. But that's cool. Thanks for sharing your experience and just kind of
absolutely, for sure.
I know there's a lot of people that grow up in that sort of, even if they're not maybe a pastor's kid, but like, in a ministry setting and kind of having that like eyes on you kind of feeling. And it's really good.
And I think another thing is that my parents have a lot of other pastor friends in the area that I grew up around.
Yeah.
I grew up around their kids. And so like I sort of have this PK network that I'm close with, and we're all really great friends. And so to have that sort of relationship with other people who get it, or who can relate to things that maybe other people wouldn't relate to necessarily.
Yeah.
Or you just feel like maybe you wouldn't say things you wouldn't say to other people who wouldn't get it,
Yeah, you can kind of open up maybe more, or that makes sense. It's nice to have that community of people that are walking through something like you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That was invaluable.
Yeah. So how do you feel like your faith has impacted your view of art and kind of how you create? Sort of a deep question.
That's a great question. That's a great question. Well, I think something I realized in school, taking like humanities classes and things, was like how much, in a different time, the church was at the forefront of the arts and things, a lot of the greatest architecture and the greatest paintings and the greatest music like was written or created or built for the church.
That's true.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people now sort of see the church as boring, or people who are outside of church, like see church as boring, or it's like, they don't connect with it. And I think that I see it as it's an amazing creative opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think that we should all, as the collective church, like be pursuing excellence in the arts and creativity and just different pursuits, and being as creative as we can in the church.
Yeah.
Not for its own sake, but because I think it's its own form of worship, for lack of better term for it.
Yeah.
So I think that sort of impacted me creatively to continually pursue excellence and, just pushing myself creatively.
Yeah.
In that sense.
For sure. That's a really good answer. That was really good. Yeah, I'm like, it's a deep question, but it was a really good answer to go with it. Love it. Have you seen in your journey any kind of defining moments, I guess, that you feel like have really made an impact or shifted your perspective, that kind of thing?
I think the one that always comes to mind is going back to the end of my time in high school.
Mm-hmm.
This was sort of like a pivotal moment for me, I think. And it's sort of funny, but towards the end of my senior year was when I started leading worship and singing at church and singing in general. And I had this idea, and I remember texting Michael Cash from my advisory class in fourth period.
Oh, nice. Yes. Advisory.
Because I had this random idea talking with my friends about what if we made a Christmas album?
Yes.
And this was like November of that year. Like it's very close to
Christmas. So not a whole lot of time to get this thing together.
And I had never recorded anything in my life. I wasn't a great vocalist. I wasn't really a great guitar player. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. And he meant it. And so we spent like every day working on this Christmas album together, these like 4 songs that we recorded.
That's incredible.
And we put out on iTunes. It's like pre-Spotify days.
Whoa, pre-Spotify.
But yeah, right. Like you had to buy this on iTunes. And I think that was just a pivotal moment for me in terms of it, like giving myself permission to pursue creative things. Not because it was like, a smash success or something, but because I did it.
Yeah.
It was this random, like pie in the sky goal at the time for me.
But it happened.
And we did it.
Yeah.
And it was like with so much help from so many people.
Yeah.
But we did it. And I think it also gave me some confidence in performing and singing because I wasn't like bullied out of school after putting it out.
Yeah.
But like you have those thoughts when you haven't started doing something creatively, you're sort of like, well, how will people see it?
Yes.
It's like, well, most of my school wasn't coming to my church and hearing me play or anything like that. And just to have any sort of positive reception to that, I think was hugely motivating to me to continue to pursue what I was interested in.
Yeah, that's so good. And can we still find that on iTunes today?
You can still find it on iTunes and Spotify now. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Cool. Yeah. Do you want to give us the name of it?
Yeah.
Or is it better not to?
No, it's called a Mary Keller Christmas.
Okay, cool. I'll have to definitely check it out. That sounds super fun.
Cue it up for next year.
Yes. And I love Michael Cash's like can-do attitude. Like he's like, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Michael's been a humongous mentor for me.
Super cool.
All through growing up. Yeah. Would not have been possible without him.
Yeah. And he and Brianna are on. I'll put a link to their episode. I can't remember which episode it was, but earlier in the podcast, y'all can go back and listen.
Yeah.
Super cool. So I guess as we kind of are wrapping up a little bit here, what are some of the things that you're maybe looking towards in the near future? What's kind of your current passion right now?
Yeah, I just want to continue pursuing photography as a hobby. I've gotten back into some film photography for fun.
Yeah.
And it just continuing to push more and more for video projects, whether it be at the church or just outside of church and just grow in those ways.
That's awesome. Yeah. So cool.
I think that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I love it so much. Oh, and I was curious to just ask, because since you're into it, like, are there any specific films or like genres of film that really inspire you?
Oh, man. I really like a couple of directors' movies that I watch, which are sort of cliche, I think, to anyone who's into cinematography and things. But anything that like Roger Deakins has done, he did everything from like 1984 and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, and Fargo to like current, like he did the latest Blade Runner movie.
Okay, cool.
And No Country for Old Men as the cinematographer. Yeah, and I like anything by the Coen brothers or Paul Thomas Anderson.
Cool. That's awesome. Well, thanks. I was like,
Yeah,
I'm wondering what's the
absolutely.
inspiration here. So
Yeah.
that's super cool.
And I think the movie that sparked my interest altogether from that class was a movie called On the Waterfront
On the
that has
waterfront.
Marlon Brando in it. It's like from the 50s.
Okay. I don't think I've ever seen
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
cool.
It like made me realize like old movies are cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're not all cheesy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I would love to hear. I like to ask everyone that comes on the show, is there something that you feel like is on your heart to share with other artists right now?
Yeah. I think I would just circle back to, don't feel like you have to have it all figured out right now, or don't feel like you need to be where you want to be right now or tomorrow. Just get a little better every day. And don't feel like if you don't know your thing, or if you haven't settled on your one thing, if there ever is one, don't feel like you have to know that right now either. Just keep, day by day learning something new or trying something new in the things you're interested in and have fun with it.
Yes. Love that so much. And this is a random question, but what is one of your favorite things right now? That can really be anything.
One of my favorite things right now. Well, there's a podcast that I have been listening to on the drive to work every day. It's a pretty new one called the Roger Deakins Podcast.
Okay, cool.
Which is by this cinematographer that I love.
That's legit that there's a podcast.
Yeah, he's getting older now, and I guess he and his wife decided to start a podcast and just kind of like dump their industry secrets and stuff out there.
So
but
cool.
they have tons of people on that are from all different parts of the filmmaking process, like producers and directors and visual effects and wardrobe people. And yeah, it's definitely an interesting podcast for just hearing from people in the movie industry.
Yeah, that sounds really fun.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's a cool one.
Yeah, so cool. Definitely have to check that out.
Yeah.
And then last thing, this has been super fun. If anyone wanted to get in touch with you, what would be the best way to connect? Or I guess with the church too. Yeah,
so our church website is slfc.co. And then you can find me on Instagram at Logan Keller. And that's pretty much my go-to social media right now. Yeah.
Seems like it's good to kind of streamline, just like focus in on one or two. So that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Logan. This has been super awesome just to get to connect with you and kind of hear more about your journey. And thanks for sharing just your story with us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Rachel. It's been fun.
Totally been so much fun.
I appreciate it.
Loved this conversation with Logan. And you guys, I checked out A Mary Keller Christmas and it is so good. It was so much fun. So y'all should totally check it out on Spotify or iTunes. Add it to your Christmas playlist for this coming year. Or if you just need a little bit of cheer getting into March, go for it. You can find all the links from today's show and the full show notes on our website, creativeimpactpodcast.com. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. The music for the show was produced by Michael Cash, who also produced A Mary Keller Christmas. Share the show with a friend, check out our Patreon community and bonus episode, and I'll see you next week.